Oh my gosh, what a game. Oh, at this rate, I'm going to have a heart attack. And you know it's possible. But the All Blacks maintained their perfect record in pool play with a win over South Africa last night, and it was exciting and pulsating and intense and unbelievable. Now, I've already read some articles saying that it was a comprehensive victory by the All Blacks. It was not comprehensive. It was a tight match, and, you know, thankfully we got through it. Now, in a lot of cases, people say, oh, that was a game of two halves. Well, in my opinion, it was a game of four quarters. First quarter, of course, being dominated by South Africa's rush defense. I mean, we were going sideways, we were going backwards. I mean, it looked like we were panicking. Maybe we weren't, but it just kind of looked that way at times on attack, and the few times we actually had the ball. And then you have Sevu Reece with his back to the opposition, throwing the ball into the in goal area. I mean, that's either confidence or panic. I don't know what it is. But the first 20 minutes were obviously dominated by South Africa. The second 20 minutes, wow. It started off with two major mistakes by the Springboks. First was the missed kick by Andre Pollard. I mean, it was pretty much a sitter. I could have even missed that kick. Maybe I could have made it too, if there wasn't 70,000 people watching and millions watching from the on TV. But he missed that kick, which was a sitter. And then Faf du Plessis, he's a cricketer. Faf de Klerk throws the ball 20 metres behind their teammates. Richie Mo'unga picks the ball up, almost scores the try. And I think the All Blacks were fired up after that. I think Kieran Reid was fired up by the fact that they weren't awarded a yellow card. And also the All Blacks were like, oh, this is what it's like to play in the opposition 22. And I think that kind of sparked strong 20 minutes, actually 5 minutes where we scored the two tries. And I think a lesser South African team, a team from maybe 3 years ago, would have just let the floodgates open and it would have been a thrashing. But to their credit, South Africa were fantastic. And they came back really strong early in the second half. So the third quarter was certainly South Africa's. They came back with a lot of intent. They were starting to make some real meters. Before their try, you could tell something was going to happen because on every carry, they were making 5-6 meter runs. Our defense was backtracking. And eventually, when they scored the try, we literally had no one in front of them when they scored the try. And then the last 20 minutes, it was a bit even, back and forth, but I think we scored the two penalties we scored. Just secured the game. So what an amazing game. Now already, because I like to read up on the reaction of fans, reaction from the media, and I'm seeing a lot of the South African fans blaming the referee. Man of the match, Jerome Garces. And to be honest, I was worried about the referee coming into the game too. But I think he had a good game. No, but to all those that are complaining about the referee saying, the All Blacks got the rub of the green, the South Africans were penalised, it was just an unbelievably horrible penalty count. It ended up being 9-4, so, 2-1 is a pretty big disparity. And Rasmus certainly pointed that out. It's like, when you get 10 penalties to 2, it's hard to win the game. So, come on, bro. And I think the fans have kind of taken his cue and complained as well. But let me tell you, there were occasions where the referee didn't allow or made some calls against the All Blacks. That first one, he could very well have awarded a yellow card or given a yellow card to one of the South African players, and not just the guy that had made the initial tackle, but the defense that was backtracking, because they didn't really show replays, but it looked like Ryan Crotty, when he tried to get the ball free, it was knocked down by South Africa. Now, I would have wanted to see a replay of that, but a yellow card could have happened. A penalty try could have happened, and I think that's why Kieran Reid was saying, man, that's gutless, because he can't make the big call. And then a couple of times as well, in the line-out, we were penalised for taking the guy out in the air, and on closer inspection, it was just the South African lifters not doing their job. They're like, let's chuck you up. Let's try and win the opposition ball, which they did. And it's like, okay, what else do we do? We've got to catch him. and they didn't. And then Sam Whitelock gets penalised for for taking the guy out in the air and didn't even touch him. And that led to a South African drop goal. They got within 4. Pressure was on. And then, of course, a lot of the time now, the complaint, I think, from a lot of the fans was that at the breakdown, the All Blacks got away with stuff. And to be honest, they probably did. Coming from the side of the ruck, probably did. And there were a couple of occasions where we got the ball. It seemed like we lost the ball in the ruck and then we somehow got it back, which might have included a bit of illegal play. But let me tell you, there are plenty of occasions in the breakdown where South Africa were pulling down, holding guys down. They were doing all that niggly stuff which they got away with. I think on one occasion, Henri Pollard grabbed the head of one of our players and grabbed it and sort of shook it away. I mean, man, there were times where they were really niggly. And to our credit, and I must say to a guy like Ardie Savea and Dane Coles, who previously would have reacted to that, they did a pretty good job of not reacting to it. So to all those guys and those head-high tackles, oh my gosh, around the neck, around the head, it happened quite often. And none of them were penalised. In fact, I thought the referee allowed teams to really go at it, both teams. So to all those that are complaining about the ref and saying the ref is the only reason why the All Blacks won, talk to the hand. Wait, where's the hand? Talk to the hand, buddy. Talk to the hand. So don't give me that referee was to blame. Now, of course, if we lose, then I'll blame the referee. No. But just an amazing game. And might I say, I mean, talking about standout plays, George Bridge, in my opinion, is just a fantastic, phenomenal player. He might not be the biggest, he might not be the fastest, but he certainly isn't the guy that gets rattled easily. Under the high ball, he was fantastic, and I think the high ball is where South Africa really struggled, and I think that's their kicking game and their catching the high ball was a real struggle for them, and that helped the All Blacks score a couple of our tries. That's why Aaron Smith was very deliberate, kind of slow sometimes, but very deliberate in making sure that kick went up, put them under pressure. But George Bridge was just amazing. A few months ago, I thought, man, you think about some players that if they get injured, you're like, oh man, I hope he doesn't get injured. And Rieko Ioane was one of those guys because I thought, man, we don't have a good backup on the left wing. If he gets injured, we're in the poo. Well, it turns out we don't really need Rieko Ioane for those big games at the moment, do we? Injury permitting. But George Bridge has been phenomenal, whether it's playing a blowout game against Tonga or Japan last year, whether it's playing an intense game against Australia where we need to win the Bledisloe Cup, or a or a World Cup game where we're playing South Africa, arguably our most intense, our toughest pool game ever at a World Cup. He just performs so well. I just like him. Like, he's not the kind of guy that gets rattled, and the pressure doesn't seem to get to him. And he's a really focused player. Like, when the try that he scored, the pass that he received from Beauden Barrett, it was a bad pass. Let's face it was a stink pass. But because he was there ready to receive the pass, whether it was high, low, backwards, and it so happened that it was low and kind of backwards, well, kind of behind him, he still got the try. A lesser player would have dropped that, and we would have blamed Beauden Barrett for a poor pass. On the other wing, we got Sevu Reece. Man, his acceleration off the mark is phenomenal. Now, there's a lot of wingers in the world that are just fast, but his speed, acceleration from a standing start is fantastic. Ben Smith, you're a fast player, you're a great player, but your acceleration is not what Sevu Reece's is. And boy, you don't die wondering with Sevu Reece. He'll pass it, he'll take a few risks, but to be honest, that really helps in some regards because it's so unpredictable. And teams do not have a lot of film on Sevu Reece. He hasn't played for the All Blacks that often. And in fact, he only really made a name for himself last year playing for Waikato in the Mitre 10 Cup. So I'm very excited, very happy with the win. Obviously, this is just the start, but what a start for the All Blacks. And One thing, if there are any concerns, our scrum in the second half looked a little bit shaky with our reserve props. So that needs to be tightened up, whether that means bringing in Molly for one of the games, whether that means just refocus on what they need to do. Because there were a couple of times where Savia was just trying to grab the ball as quickly as he could from behind the scrum and Kieran Reid, and we struggled. So other than that, I think it was a pretty good game. I think the All Blacks will be pretty happy. 10 games or 10 days to our next game, and we'll probably see a lot of changes for the next game, which is fine because we're playing Canada and we should win comfortably. But what a game. And at this rate, I don't know if I'll have a voice. I don't know if I'll have a heart that functions properly. But hey, what a great game. Hope you enjoyed it.